Welcome to the brand new series of inCycle, the show bringing you a unique insight into the world of pro biking. Over the season, we'll bring you all the action and excitement with exclusive access to all the best riders and teams. On this edition, we look at Mathieu Van Der Poel's dominance on the cyclocross scene.
If a sport ever wants to go on the big stage, if it wants to go to the heart of the things, it needs a champion.
With the 2019 road season underway, Team Sunweb show us their new bike.
I got my hands on the bike middle of November, so we really wanted to do some testing on it to make sure that we could have everything perfect when the season starts.
But before all of that, Team Dimension Data's Bernie Ison looks back on his return from brain surgery.
Season 2018 was definitely a rough one. Had a little accident with a team car. Constantly had headaches. Pretty much 24/7 migraine. You know, it's getting rough. So I went to see the doctors, and straight away, he organized me to go over next doors and had an MRT done, and they discovered a massive subdural hematoma, it's called, and it was just a small bleeding in my head that just constantly built up. The bleeding, or that hematoma I had, was so massive that the doctors were impressed that I could still walk and talk. Long story short, long cut here, drilled a hole, released the pressure and the blood, and then it was a long waiting time for 3 months till I was really cleared to race again. When I look back now, it's probably the longest time, because the smallest headache always brought me back down to earth, and it's like, is it coming back? And it's just you get really scared and frightened, and you just anxious, and everything is a little bit too much. When you have a broken bone or something, you know you're back in 6 to 8 weeks. If you have like a tendinitis, you get a bit cautious on your knee or whatever where you have it. On the brain, you just think you just have to work. Normally you have to function, and it doesn't work. It's like it takes so much energy out of you. I have 2 little kids, them screaming around or going somewhere, and it just, I had to take off 2 hours in the afternoon where I just pretty much locked myself and shut myself down just to deal with the whole situation. I mean, the comeback and everything, Kev said it to me, it's like, mate, don't stress. It's like, because I always had also the dream to be back for the Tour. And that was clear after a few weeks that's not gonna happen. I wanted to come back, but at the same time, honestly, I retired 3 times, probably 5 times. And it was just like, why I'm doing this? It's like it just all got a little bit too much. But at the same time, it kept me going, and the training first on a turbo and then riding outside, it really helped me. It's like, when I look back, like after 2 weeks in hospital, or I was a week in hospital and then another week at home where I couldn't do anything, and then doing half an hour on the turbo, I felt like the best ever. Like, I got off that turbo, sweated a little bit, and I was just happy. Honestly, when I came back for the first races, I did Pinas Arami and pretty much no training, and my lights just went off after 130, still in a bunch, but then I just couldn't follow them anymore. It's just, I got dropped from off the wheel. I was like, okay, that's going really well here. I didn't enjoy it. So that was also a time where I started thinking, am I doing the right thing? Is it the right thing to come back? We're driven by this sport, and I just wanted to come back and do something. I mean, the team supported me through the whole thing. Like, there was never pressure of any sort. It was just always like, take it easy. And I always just wanted to come back and give something back to the team too. People definitely thought I will never come back and I retire. Other people think I retired 3-4 years ago. That's another story. No, but it's definitely not a goodbye season from my side. It's like, I'm not going to every race and saying this is the last time I'm in this race or something. I just go in there as a normal race and enjoy it. And probably 2020 I'm still on the bike. I hope Rolf Aldag doesn't see that.
Cyclocross, one of cycling's hardest disciplines. Rough terrain, brutal winter weather, unrelenting pace, and technical tests challenge even the best riders. All except one. At just 24 years old, Mathieu Van Der Poel has more than 100 career victories, 5 Dutch national titles, 2 European championships, and has been crowned world champion twice. Many are beginning to call him the greatest cyclocross rider of all time.
Yeah, I always try to beat him every weekend, and I always start with motivation to beat him, but it's so hard. He's like perfect in every way of cyclocross. He's perfect technically, he's perfectly like, he pushes the watts. It's very hard to beat him, and I'll keep trying, and I think everyone's keep trying, but it's hard to like find like a weak spot to beat him.
Yeah, we know he is the best, and we have to do our own thing, and that's for me the most important thing during the race and the whole week, and that's the main thing I concentrate myself on.
Over the years, you wonder what training he's doing, or like he must be doing something different, he must be doing more hours, he must be doing more intervals, he must be doing something different. And 9 times out of 10, he's doing the same as everyone else. He's putting in the hard work, and it's a huge chunk of natural ability. And I think he knows that. I think he even said in an interview, he knows he's lucky to have the natural talent that he's been given.
I mean, we try every week to come as close as we can, but I think at the moment he's just a little bit better, and we have to wait until he has a weak moment and then try to make advantage of that.
It seems amongst many riders the only way to beat Van Der Poel is either for him to have a bad day or to crash out. While many are celebrating the Dutchman's reign, others are not so enthralled by his complete domination of the sport. So is Mathieu Van Der Poel's winning streak putting people off?
Mathieu is head and shoulders above everyone else, and you can look at it as though it's boring, but for me it's just, you need to sit down and appreciate what he's doing. He's like putting Wout van Aert away, who, take away Mathieu, he would be head and shoulders above anyone else. And I was wondering whether I'd find it boring as a spectator, because obviously I'm riding the courses, and so I can see how hard a climb is that he's riding that no one else is, and I can see how technical maybe a descent is that he's taking flat stick, not taking a foot out. And maybe I wouldn't appreciate as much just as a spectator, sat at home watching it on my iPad or something. So I think the spectators just need to appreciate it and take my word for it.
Like, I definitely do feel more engaged with the women's, because it's like, unless something happens to Van Der Poel, it's pretty much safe to assume that he'll win. And I had seen him kind of clap back and say, my sponsors don't pay me to make it interesting, they pay me to win. And I get that, trust me. I feel like I understand him kind of finally saying like, okay, enough, because I'm sure he hears it a lot.
Most of the time he's just like first lap full gas and he rides away, and I think he almost chooses like how far you want to go away, and that's what makes cyclocross a little bit boring the last few weeks. But I think people need to go and like watch the race for the second place, but because it's always interesting for that one.
To see the race is boring, I think, yeah, for the people at home, but for the people beside the course, I think it's still nice to see everybody racing, and for us it's important to find something fun during the race and instead of winning the race.
Maybe for the spectators it's a little bit difficult because they will only see him winning, but I mean, behind that there are a lot of riders that are really close to each other and are also competing at a really high level, and I think everybody tries to do his best, and there's a lot of fighting going on behind Van Der Poel.
I think with Wout's team issues and whatnot, it really distracted him at the beginning of the season and took him off his game, because normally they had a good battle, and that was something exciting. Even if it was just the two of them off the front all the time, at least it was some sort of dynamic. But yeah, I don't foresee it happening forever. I feel like something will change.
People come and watch and they want to like see who's winning and not like racing for second place, and that's, yeah, it makes cyclocross a little bit more boring than the last few years, I guess, but yeah, it's up to us to like close the gap with Mathieu.
If a sport ever wants to go on the big stage, like if it wants to have an impact on like international like attention, if it wants to go to the heart of the fans, it needs a champion, and it needs someone who wins everything, who dominates the sport. Like, let's think about Formula One. Which name pops up? It's probably Michael Schumacher. Like tennis, there is Roger Federer or there is Nadal, and they are known because they won and won and won. It's not like they need to have the battles. Like, of course, if two champions have a battle, then that's great and that's super exciting. But Federer is known because he won 20 Grand Slams. So if a sport ever wants to become big, they need a champion, and that's what Mathieu Van Der Poel does.
At the first races of the year, one of the most notable changes amongst World Tour teams has been what they're riding. After a merry-go-round off-season, 4 top teams have new bike sponsors. In 2019, AG La Mondiale will ride aboard Eddy Merckx bikes. CCC have switched to Giant, Dimension Data are on BMCs, whilst Team Sunweb have partnered with Cervelo. When any team changes bikes, it provides a number of challenges, and preparation must begin long before the start of the new year, as inCycle found out when we spoke with the man overseeing the Sunweb switch.
When the contracts were signed and that everything was a deal, then you already start to look at the main preferences of the key riders. What do they need? What suits in the current collection of Cervelo? And then you look at geometry also. And that's always around the first looks in July, and then in August and September you get to know more about sizes and those things. When all those things are arranged and we've done some testing with the bikes, then the orders can be placed and everything will go from October, November. The frames will come in and the riders will start riding it.
One of the first riders to get their hands on the new team-issue Cervelos was 2017 Tour de France green jersey winner Michael Matthews. As a fast man, the Australian particularly had his eye towards the new S5 aero bike he'll be riding for much of the forthcoming season.
I got my hands on the bike, I think it was middle of November in 2018. So it was quite early. I think it was just as my off-season was getting back into training again. So I had it straight away when I started training again, which was really important to get as much hours and stuff on the bike and get used to it as quick as possible. So yeah, because it was a totally new bike, even used for Cervelo with the new S5 that we have now. So we really wanted to do some testing on it to make sure that we could have everything perfect when the season starts.
Sunweb, of course, is more than just a men's world tour team. With one of the most successful women's squads in the sport and a flourishing junior development programme, it's one of the largest performance organisations in cycling. That meant a crucial part of switching bike brands was matching the riders across the three squads to the right bike.
All the teams, we have 52 riders. We'll be going to 400 frame sets. Within the team we have even 4 bikes. We have the S5 for the women's teams, sprinters in the World Tour team. Then we have the R5 for Grand Tour riders. The Grand Tour riders they have chosen for the R5 with rim brakes. Then we have the S3. The S3 is the more little brother of the S5, and the development team rides it. And then the newly launched P5 time trial bike is our time trial bike for all teams.
One focus in the off-season has been into the needs of one very important rider. Time trialling remains at the core of Tom Dumoulin's Grand Tour challenges, and his requirements in a bike for a race against time has been central to the new partnership.
We would have the best situation if he's really comfortable on the bike and he can give his maximum output of power. With everything that he has got in himself, that it comes on the pedals. And that's an aerodynamic part, and he gives, within the limits of aerodynamics, his input on comfort. If we have to choose between comfort and aero, he's a high performance athlete and he won't settle for comfort.
While there are 5 World Tour teams who will ride on only disc brakes this season, Sunweb is one team that will still offer their riders a choice, despite the challenges this may pose.
In the past, always weight was an issue with sprint bikes, and now in the current S5, aerodynamics as well as the progress in weight are just equalizing the chances of the bike. It has a logistic challenge with wheel sets. Even in the classics, when you have a mix-up of riders who do rim brake and who do disc brake, so you need double the amount of wheels.
Inevitably, those who have the most to get their heads around are the mechanics. Ensuring they're comfortable with the new frames is vital before the season begins.
Cervelo came to our several schools to do an introduction of the bikes. They showed the bike build, how it's get done. Then afterwards we build up a protocol how to build a bike, and from then on mechanics use the protocol to build the bike.
But given the rate of change within bike technology over the last 10 years, a change in bike sponsor is unlikely to faze the leading pro mechanics. With the 2019 cycling season well underway, it's time to look back on some of the highlights of the year so far, starting with the world's biggest one-day classic outside of Europe, the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race. Having taken the overall victory at the Tour Down Under a week prior, Mitchelton Scott's Darrell Impey went into the race as one of the obvious favourites. But after a flurry of action on the race's final lap through the streets of Geelong, it was to be last year's runner-up who ultimately triumphed on the day.
Viviani is waiting, rubbing shoulders is Caleb Ewan. Viviani opens up, it's the Italian champion. Ewan is challenging, but it is Viviani who gets there.
The Koenig quick-step sprinter Elia Viviani sealing the win ahead of home favourite Caleb Ewan and the aforementioned Impey. Viviani was back in action the following month at the inaugural UAE Tour, as the opening team time trial stage saw Jumbo Visma storm to victory to give Primož Roglic the red leader's jersey.
7 kilometres an hour. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Primož Roglic, the red jersey of this year's race.
Stage 2 to Abu Dhabi gave the fast men a chance to showcase their early season form as 2 of the world's top sprinters battled it out right to the line.
Opens it up, Gaviria on the right hand side, Gaviria goes long, Ewan in third, Elia Viviani, the Italian champion in second position, Halverson on the right hand side, Viviani comes forward on the right hand side, Viviani, it is Gaviria on the left, Gaviria, Viviani, oh in the centre it is Fernando Gaviria!
Alexander Gaviria just edging out former teammate Viviani to take the spoils for his new outfit, UAE Team Emirates. The GC contenders took the spotlight on Stage 3 summit finish atop Jebel Hafit, where world champion Alejandro Valverde would demonstrate the class that earned him the rainbow jersey last September.
The rainbow badge emerged first, opens up the sprint on the inside. There is Roglic on a lower gear, but it looks like Valverde takes the win. The world champion is victorious.
There was another uphill finish on the menu the following day at Hatter Dam, but at just a kilometre in length, that wouldn't prevent the punchier sprinters from contesting the victory.
Well, Trek look like they're going to take this. Caleb Ewan in second position. Caleb Ewan now going to the front. Caleb Ewan looks like he's going to take this. The little Australian, still a long way to go on this climb, but an amazing sprint by Caleb Ewan. What a ride! Ewan takes the stage.
Ewan taking his first win in Lotto Soudal colours, but the Australian would be boxed out the next day as Viviani and Gaviria added another chapter to their growing rivalry.
Here is Eli Viviani, also in the mix of Sam Bennett, picked up in the centre. Gaviria goes, Bennett on his wheel, Bennett comes round, Bennett in the centre, Gaviria on the left, and it's kept on the right hand side, Viviani on the left, who takes it? Oh, Viviani takes it on the line!
The Italian prevailing on this occasion. The GC would be decided on the penultimate stage's finishing slopes to Jebel Jais, where race leader Roglic added to his 21-second advantage over Valverde.
Amazing riding here by Tom Dumoulin. David Gaudu coming on the outside, Dumoulin still on the left-hand side, but it is Roglic on the right. Roglic reigns supreme.
The Slovenian taking the stage win and 10 bonus seconds to all but assure himself of overall victory. Before Roglic could be crowned in Dubai, however, there was still one final opportunity for the sprinters.
350 metres to go. Adam Blythe is in second position, just on the left-hand side of Sunweb now. Alexander Kristoff now takes things up at the front, but it is Adam Blythe on the front. Caleb Ewan in the slipstream on the right-hand side. It's Alexander Kristoff, and then we see Michael Morkov and Sabatini with Viviani in the centre of your street. Caleb Ewan, Gaviria in the centre, then comes Sam Bennett on the right. Gaviria in the centre, Bennett, Gaviria, Bennett on the right-hand side.
Bora Hansgrohe's Sam Bennett winning the final stage, with Roglic joined on the overall podium by Valverde and FDJ youngster David Gaudu. With the start of March also came the traditional curtain raiser to classic season, Omloop Het Nieuwsblad, where despite Greg Van Avermaet's best efforts, it was checkmate.
Stibar goes now. Zdenek Stibar goes for De Koning Quickstep, and again it's up to the CCC rider to try and react, but Zdenek Stibar, has he timed this one? Van Avermaet has a look around. 200 metres to go. He sees the line ahead of him, a huge crowd here at the finish. A gutsy move, and he takes it. The winner of the 74th edition of Omloop Het Nieuwsblad is Zdenek Stibar from De Koning Quickstep. A fantastic victory, his second win of the year.
The Czech Republic's Zdenek Stibar taking another victory for his Belgian outfit ahead of Van Avermaet and Tim Wellens. That's it for this edition, but do join us next time. Until then, keep up to date with us on social media.